I appreciate you guys for supporting the Elite Smart Athletes movement so far. But if you want it to grow further, head over to the playlist section and select this playlist. Want to support the channel, keep this playlist on repeat. And that is it. That's all you've got to do. Just let the videos run in the background whilst you go off and, I don't know, invest in Bitcoin or something. It's got all the videos that are going to help grow the channel by suggesting them to people who haven't found Elite Smart Athletes yet. And then we can see this movement grow further. Of course, keep on liking, commenting, subscribing, and let's see the movement take off. Let's get it. If you're an athlete and you have access to a sled, I definitely think you should be training with it because it can be used for so many things: strength, speed, power, conditioning, even rehab. You can go forwards and backwards, you can work many different sport specific joint angles, and it can be progressively overloaded or regressed very easily. But not every gym is equipped with one, so here are some alternative options if you don't have access to a sled. So this is called a DEADMILL. Anyone who's done an ATG program is familiar with this. So you start with the treadmill off, and you actually just use your own force to push back and get the band on the treadmill moving. And you can work in the angles similar to the sled. I like to put my hands on the little handlebars on the treadmill to be able to just work in those same angles. I would equate this to using a heavy sled going forward because the treadmill's not on, so you're creating all the force, which means it's a bit more of a strength and power exercise as opposed to conditioning. So you don't need to do this for as long, you can do this in short bursts. As I said before, with the sled you can go forwards and backwards, and with the DEADMILL you can do a normal DEADMILL or this version, which is the reverse DEADMILL. Now it's the same principles as the normal DEADMILL. The treadmill is off, you use your own force to get the belt moving, and it is definitely more of a strength and power exercise as opposed to one that I would do for longer conditioning. So I'd personally recommend doing this in shorter intervals as opposed to a long continuous bout. The reverse DEADMILL is also really good for building up your VMOs, which are muscles in your thighs which work in tandem with your quadriceps. So if you can build those up, you'll also be able to help protect your knees better. So if you're doing rehab, prehab, or you're healthy, this is a really good way to protect your knees. But as always, we can always progressively overload. So if you do a normal DEADMILL and you find that it's starting to get easy for you, or it's just not hard enough for you in the first place, then you can always just add an incline to the treadmill and make it an incline DEADMILL instead. So obviously the incline adds a bit more resistance, which then gives you a bit more strength and power work, and therefore you start to just get more benefits from it. But same principles: treadmill off, your own force to move the belt, and probably do this for shorter intervals. And if we can go forwards, then we can go backwards. So there is of course the reverse incline DEADMILL. But again, the principles still remain the same. The only difference is that this added incline gives you a bit more resistance, which in turn will build more power and strength and help you maybe build those VMOs a bit more quickly. So these are all your options for the DEADMILL. Now, in terms of using the treadmill normally, aka when the belt is actually moving, I don't think using it normally is actually going to help you, and by normally I mean without an incline. So if you're just using it flat, you're not really going to get that same resistance as you would with a sled, because obviously a sled you can add weights to it. So I think the only feasible option with using the belt moving is to put it on an incline, and then you get it to a speed that is relatively fast walk but not crazy fast, and then you get yourself into those angles, maybe holding those handles as you can see I'm doing in the video, and then you might be able to feel some benefit. But I would say that this is a much easier option than going with the DEADMILL, so my first advice would be go with the DEADMILL. But if you feel the need to regress it and take it back a bit, then this is still an option where you'll get some benefits. And of course you can do this going backwards, so a reverse incline treadmill walk. Now this is my personal favorite because we spend so much time walking forwards that we probably don't work those antagonistic muscles to go backwards. So if we spend some more time going backwards, then we should be able to theoretically increase our overall leg, lower body, lower limb health. Now with this version, again, going backwards on an incline is probably not something many people have done before, so you will probably feel more resistance going backwards than if you were to go forwards with the belt moving. So I reckon the incline treadmill is probably for people that really are struggling or really need to start from a beginner level, whereas a reverse incline treadmill walk is probably a better option for most people to begin with. I personally do this just as a warm-up for my gym sessions. It's a really good way to get my knees activated and those VMOs warmed up, but because it's not as heavy resistance as the reverse dead mill, my legs don't feel as burned out as I go into my sessions, especially on a lower body day. So as you can see, loads of options just utilizing the treadmills in your gym. So I know your gym might not have a sled, but I'm pretty sure it will have a treadmill. So definitely get that work in ASAP. You may still not have access to a gym, but that's okay. You can still work on this from home. All you need is a wall. You just get into an acceleration type of position and you raise one leg in front, and that's it. You hold it. It's an isometric hold. Now the foot that's on the floor, you want to kind of be pushing off the ball of your feet. You can see just at the bottom that my heel is raised, and the foot that's off the floor, you don't want your toes pointing downwards towards the floor. You want them at least at a 90-degree angle. So you don't want them plantar flexed, which would be towards the floor, but you want them dorsiflexed, which is at that at least 90-degree angle, or if not higher. This might not seem like a sled because you're not moving, but you're still working in those angles. You're working your joints in the ways that they should be or they would be using a sled. And it's isometrics, and we know that isometrics have an analgesic effect, aka healing, so lots of benefits. Now you can make this a bit more dynamic by turning it into a march, but you pretty much have the same principles as with the isometric hold. You're striking the floor with the ball of your foot and your foot is remaining dorsiflexed. You might want to make sure you push against the wall a little bit just to get a little bit of resistance into this movement, but otherwise it's the same principles as the isometric wall hold. Now, if you've been on Fat Don't Fly or the speed code, which I now have access to, so I will be putting a review out soon, then you can obviously do a band pull through if you also have a band. Now, this version has the same principles as the wall hold in terms of the joint angles, using the balls of your feet and dorsiflexion, but you have the added resistance of the resistance band around your waist. So as you move forward and explode forwards, the band is actually trying to pull you back, so you have to fight that resistance. Additionally, at the top of the movement where your leg is straight, you should be trying to contract your glute on that leg. This is obviously a more explosive version that mimics the speed work that you could do with a sled. So there you have it. Here are some alternatives that I think are great if you don't have access to a sled, but comment below anything else that you think I've missed, or if you've done any of these before. Obviously like the video, share it, subscribe, and until next time, stay blessed.